Hey guys, this is Vanessa Dyer, and I'm the Charlotte, North Carolina-based lifestyle blogger behind thecheekybean.com. With several successful years as a business owner, a first-time mom, and a deep passion for health and wellness, I'm here to share my honest, unfiltered advice on all things motherhood, relationships, travel, and more. So grab a coffee and join the conversation. This is the Cheeky Bean Podcast. Welcome back to Season 2 of the Cheeky Bean Podcast. This new season is officially underway. I'm super excited for everything that we have coming this season. And full transparency, because I know a lot of you are probably wondering why there was so much time in between these two seasons. It was definitely a lot longer than I had anticipated, but as some of you know, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and I wanted to rebrand. I wanted to refine the process. I wanted to make it perfect and I wanted to come back better than ever. And that meant finding a podcast producer that I really trusted. It meant really getting down into the nitty-gritty of the topics that we discuss here. And sometimes that just can't be rushed. So nonetheless, I'm excited to kick it off today with one of your favorite topics. Back in season 1, the most listened to episode is how I lost the pregnancy weight and my postpartum journey. Now 2.5 years down the road, and as you know, if you follow me on Instagram, health and wellness, diet and exercise, sleep, and all of the healthy habits and routines are still very much a part of my daily life. So my goal for you with this episode is to give you small tips or hacks that I've implemented and think really give you the best bang for your buck so that hopefully you can take a few of those tips and tricks and implement them into your daily routines. So to give you a little precursor of what to expect from this episode, I'll be talking about my current workout split, meaning what I do on each day of the week in terms of fitness. We're going to be talking about supplements, sleep routines, diet, the sauna, all the daily routines. I'm obviously not a doctor, so take this info with a grain of salt. It's just what works for me, and hopefully you can find a tip or trick that works for you that's easy to implement into your daily life too. And I've talked about this before, but I'll start by saying that I was fortunate enough to have a lot of these routines and healthy habits weaved into my childhood, so I had a really good foundation for them via my mom. She's from California, grew up in Sacramento, moved down to Southern California for her job, and really grew up in health mecca, if you will. So it's not lost on me that not everyone is fortunate enough to grow up with that background. My mother-in-law comments on that all the time. She always says that I'm so blessed that I had a mom that had that foundation and was able to pass that on to me. So I obviously feel very thankful for that. And I am hoping that I can also create that same type of environment and instill those healthy habits for my own child. When I was growing up, there was always a big emphasis on playing sports and going to the gym together and overall just being very active. And I also remember my mom placing importance on eating healthy and organic foods. Now, I feel like with time, I've really expanded my knowledge base around a lot of those wellness topics because there's just so much more information readily available out there now. And I'm someone who actually really likes to read and educate myself on these topics because I genuinely find them interesting. All of those things help, right? But my biggest piece of advice is to just stay consistent. That applies to any of these topics that we're going to talk about. Find a few things that work for you that are easy to change and then stick with them. Because instant gratification with health and wellness is not a thing, you guys. It takes time to see or feel significant change. But long term, it's easier to stick with things if they're tangible and they're realistic changes. And you have to also really want to make them a priority. Shane and I were literally just having this conversation the other day because it's been hard for him to kind of find a wellness routine since we've had Liam. And I know that's a common topic amongst new parents, but he's not necessarily an early morning guy. The reality of the situation is, when we really peeled back all the layers of the onion, are that working out in the morning is truly the only time of day that working out is going to happen for either of us without taking time away from Liam. It's also the only time of day that we make the least amount of excuses about working out. In the afternoon, things pop up. Liam's got soccer practice. We're tired from a stressful work day. You name it. There's 55 reasons why we're not going to work out. So what I've done and what I was preaching to him to do was that you just have to make it a priority to go to bed earlier so that your body gets a full night's sleep and you feel fully rested by the time that your early alarm clock goes off. But anyway, that's on the topic of sleep. We're going to get to that down the road. I want to go ahead and get into the first topic. I'm going to argue that the main pillars of health and wellness routines are sleep, hydration, exercise, time outdoors, and diet. Those are all the pillars that I have focused on getting really granular with myself. The main trigger for me in refining those to optimize them came from a hormone imbalance that I experienced back in 2018, I believe, when I got off birth control. Basically, my body had been told what to do for so long that when I stopped feeding it synthetic hormones with the birth control, it couldn't figure out how to regulate itself. So I did a deep dive back then into my wellness practices to see what wasn't optimal and started making changes from there. And I've refined that process ever since. So 2018, it's now 2023. I've basically been working on this for over 5 years. And I have learned a lot in those 5 years. So I'm going to kick it off with sleep because 8 hours of sleep is literally a non-negotiable for me these days. I used to run on absolute fumes back when I was working in corporate America and building the Cheeky Bean at the same time, because the only way for me to build my side hustle was to do it in what we called B time back then. So A time are the hours between 8:30 and 5:30, and B time is anything before and after that. So I would stay up late, I would write blog posts, I would edit photos, I would put together posts, and then I would get up early to work on stuff as well as be at the gym by 5:30 a.m. and then back at home so I could be in the office by 7:30. So not only was I running on fumes and very little sleep, my cortisol levels were through the roof. That meant that at best, I was only getting 5.5, maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. And sleep is single-handedly better than any medicine there is. If you have to choose between sleep and exercise, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that sleep is more important. When you're sleep deprived, it actually increases cravings. It can literally destroy your metabolism. It throws off your cortisol levels, and it doesn't give your gut a chance to heal, which also leads to inflammation. And it's funny because if I'm sleep deprived, I actually feel hungover. I usually crave like some type of greasy food. I want nachos. I want candy. I'm fairly lethargic. Your body essentially just heals itself via sleep. So that said, a lot of people have trouble sleeping good, and for a while, that was me too, so I relate. But you can optimize your sleeping patterns by changing a few key things, and they're not hard. One, I'm going to go ahead and say add magnesium into your diet. You can do this via a healthy diet or supplementation. If you're opting for supplementation, you're going to want to look for a magnesium glycinate or a magnesium citrate. I personally like and use the JS Health supplement. If you follow me on Instagram, I've talked about those on stories. But you want to avoid anything that says magnesium oxide, as that's a stool softener and it's not going to help aid you in your sleep at all. Now, I will say if you are going to try the JS Health ones, they are maximum strength. You can take 2, that's the serving size. But when I take 2, if I take them at night, it actually gives me crazy dreams. So I split up the dose. I take 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, and then it seems to curb the very vivid, wild dreams that it gives me. And then probably not anything groundbreaking. You've probably heard this before, but you want to remove any screen time 30 plus minutes before bed. The brightness on my phone gets turned down all the way down. It gets put on the charger. I flip it over so that I don't see it. And then I wear blue light blocking glasses to watch a show to help me wind down. So the light from the television shouldn't be a stimulating factor. It shouldn't be raising your cortisol levels. The other thing that helps with falling asleep at night is actually waking up and getting bright light immediately upon waking. So when you get exposure to sunlight in the morning, it helps reset your circadian rhythm, which in turn helps you wind down at night and fall asleep faster. So I actually crave light as soon as I wake up. It helps me feel way more alert. And now for a quick message from our sponsor. Something about summer has us feeling so nostalgic and craving all the backyard barbecues. That's why my family and I love going to Harriet's Hamburgers. Harriet serves up simple yet delicious hamburgers without all of the junk, which you guys know I'm all about. They only use all natural, 100% premium Angus beef and artisanal cheeses, house-made sauces, and toppings. It's genuinely a hamburger that I can feel good about feeding my kids. Plus, it's super fast and it's available for delivery too. Use code CHEEKY for a free fry when you dine in at Optimist Hall. So to recap, make this easy for you guys. The rundown is, as soon as I wake up, I open all the blinds, I turn on all the lights and try to get as much sunlight as possible. And then I usually try to get some type of direct sunlight in the morning hours. So I might go for a walk outside. I might just sit out on our deck. And then on the flip side, as we're winding down for the day, we try to take an evening walk with Liam right before the sun goes down to kind of signal to our bodies that it's time to go to bed. So it doesn't happen every day, obviously. It's harder seasonally too when the weather is cold and rainy. I am so weather driven. But Spring, summer, fall, we try to make this part of our daily routine more often than not. And honestly, that was, if you listen to how I lost the pregnancy weight and my postpartum journey, that was a routine that we started back when I had just had Liam and I was still in that postpartum phase and months. We started doing these evening walks, and it really, not only is the fresh air nice, it also just really helped my sleeping pattern. So I can't rave about that enough. Then I also take my magnesium. And then once I'm in bed, I turn off all the lights except for the lamp on our nightstand. I turn down the brightness on my phone. I flip it over, put the blue light blocking glasses on while we watch an episode or two of a show. And then bedtime for me is typically around 10:30. I'm up around 6:20 every morning. And like I said, sleep and getting good sleep is single-handedly going to be the biggest and most important part of your wellness journey. It is a non-negotiable for me. You can even ask my best friend Meryl. We work out together at the gym in the mornings. And if she has an early morning meeting and we have to do like 5:30 a.m. at the gym, I just don't go with her. I go on my own because I cannot typically fall asleep without some type of sleep aid before 10:30. So that means I'm going to get less than 8 hours. So I prioritize sleep over literally everything. Now let's talk about my workout split. Lifting weights and incorporating a Pilates style workout is the secret sauce for my body. It took me a long time to figure that out. There are so many benefits to lifting weights. I've always done that. I have never mixed Pilates and weightlifting together until almost 2 years ago. In October, it will be 2 years that I've been going to West Kept Secret. So in fact, not lifting weights actually ages you faster. Sarcopenia, which is muscle loss, occurs at 1 to 2% per year after the age of 30. Isn't that crazy? It can also fix testosterone levels. So the more you increase your muscle mass, the more fat you will burn because you're increasing your basal metabolic rate, which means calories burned at rest. So here's what I do. Monday is always a leg day of some sort with Meryl at the Y. We start at 6:20 with a mobility warm-up, which is kickbacks with a booty band, donkey kicks with a booty band, and arm walks with the band on. Sorry, not arm walks, army walks. I can't talk today. We do 3 sets of 15 for each of those, and that's the warm-up before we dive into the full lifting session. The lifting session is typically some type of squat. We like to do progressive overload. So sometimes we do glute hip thrust. We usually pick one main movement and then build off of there. Now, Tuesday, I always have personal training with Marissa at West Kept Secret. For those of you who aren't familiar with what West Kept is, check out episode 8 and episode 13, where the owner and founder of West Kept Secret is on for an interview. It's action-packed, full of good details, tips, and tricks. The session with her is about an hour long, and it combines Pilates, weights, and HIIT into one workout. Wednesday, always a rest day. Thursday, I do arms and abs at the Y. I always start with 20 minutes of steady state cardio. Now, I do steady state on purpose versus HIIT just because I have had that history with hormone imbalances. Too much HIIT can actually stress out your cortisol levels and cause you to not be able to lose weight. It can cause all kinds of imbalances throughout the body. So for me personally, like I said, this is my journey. This isn't the case for everybody, but for me personally, steady state cardio is what works. So that means I usually do 20 minutes on the Stairmaster, and then I follow that with a 40-minute workout of arms and abs. Friday is just a cardio only day. Sometimes that means it's just a 30-minute walk outside. Other times I'll go do a 12-3-30 on the treadmill, which again, low impact, but has a significant increase in your heart rate if you wear a heart rate monitor. I love the 12-3-30. I just can't always get to the gym. And like I said, I absolutely love to spend time outdoors, get that vitamin D. So if it's a nice sunny morning, I will opt just for the 30-minute walk outside. Occasionally, I will also just do a slow jog for 30 minutes. Now, Saturday, I go to personal training at Inertia Fitness. This is a heavy booty day. Little to no cardio. We just focus on progressive overload here with low reps and heavy weight. So what happened was when I really leaned out, when I started doing West Kept combined with my weightlifting, I also lost a lot of the muscle mass in my booty. So I added in this heavy weight day with Inertia Fitness once a week back in February, just to kind of help me figure out how you do progressive overload at the gym properly, how I can increase that muscle mass the most effective way just once a week. And I have absolutely loved those sessions with Ashton, and I have seen big time results. I started with like 96 pounds of muscle on my body in February, and now I'm at over 101 pounds of muscle, which if you know anything about working out, gaining muscle is actually very challenging. And then Sunday, always another rest day. Now, even on my rest days, I tried to at least get outside for some type of walk or a bike ride with Liam. The sunlight is great for your mind. It's a good stress reliever and it's a little extra cardio as well. I swear walking is one of the most underrated forms of exercise in my opinion. I'm also a big believer or proponent of having an accountability partner. So most of you guys know that I work out with my best friend on the days I'm not at Westcap. We even go to Inertia Fitness together. We've been working out together for 5 or so years now, and I'm always more inclined to wake up early and go to the gym if I know that she's going to be there too. So I don't necessarily think you need to spend money on a group fitness class or a personal trainer to have that accountability. I think if you can find someone at or above your fitness level that's willing to work out with you, then that's equally as good. Even if it's just for a run or a walk outdoors, like I said, on our off days, she has the same workout split as me because we lift together during the week. Sometimes we'll just meet each other for a 30-minute walk. We'll put Liam in the stroller. It's a Sunday. It's a beautiful day outside. And her and I will just do 30 minutes together. We chit chat. It goes by super fast. Our neighborhood is really hilly, so it's a little bit of cardio. But find someone that you enjoy doing that with and set up a consistent schedule with each other. Or if you're doing my West Kept Secret online program, we have a community forum. Find someone else doing the program in that forum and then set up a time to do the workouts together. Even if you guys aren't local to each other, you can do it together over Zoom. Grab your laptop, call them over your lunch break on Zoom and pull the program up on your phones. We have it on an app, so it's perfect for that. There's a lot of different ways that you can get creative. Now, we're going to move right along to food. I'm excited to share a few little tips and tricks here that I feel like the average person on a health and wellness journey probably doesn't know, myself included, until recently. So, hydration is key, obviously. Everyone knows that. But when we wake up in the morning, we're usually dehydrated from the night. So, instead of just drinking just regular water, I started adding lemon and then real salt to my water for the ultimate hydration. It's like an elixir right when you wake up. And by real salt, I mean I use the pink Himalayan sea salt from Thrive Market. This can help fight inflammation, which was the main reason that I started doing it, but it also helps increase your immune function, which everybody knows I have a toddler. We've been sick nonstop, so I will do anything in the name of increasing my immune system. It improves digestion and helps regulate fluid balance. So this is one of those things that I was talking about earlier that's so easy to add into your routine. It's super tangible. It's very realistic. It doesn't cost a lot of money, but it has a big impact, which is what we're all about. Now, I've also read that salt water before lifting actually gives you a great pump because your muscles retain all of that water, which is what makes them look so nice and plump after a workout. So that's an added bonus because we love a pump. Now, I try to do this healthy little elixir before having coffee. And on the coffee front, I've also really been trying to not drink coffee on an empty stomach, which, full transparency, is actually pretty hard for me because I don't have a big appetite when I wake up. So I've been trying to be really intentional about that. And I actually have done a half a cup of blueberries. You guys, blueberries pound for pound are the best fruit that you can eat. They reduce inflammation. They curb your sugar cravings, and they're loaded with antioxidants that keep your cells healthy. I actually saw a gut doctor who happens to be married to my primary care physician say that that is what he eats on an empty stomach every single day of his life, and he could only pick one food to eat on an empty stomach. It would always be blueberries because they're also super rich in prebiotics and high in fiber, which we all know supports a healthy digestive tract. So if you're like me, I'm always doing a million things in the morning for Liam to get him ready for the day, and they are also so easy to incorporate because they require no prep. You just open the package, you eat them straight out of the container while you're making your kids' lunch or your kids' breakfast, and that way you can have coffee right after that. They don't take long to eat, And then if I don't feel like blueberries, I'll do a kiwi. Kiwis actually help with a lot of the same things, and surprisingly, they have more vitamin C in them than an orange, which I feel like most people don't know. So side note, if you're on vacation and you feel that very unwanted bloat that we all experience while we're on vacation from eating different foods and travel and retaining all the water, ask for kiwis at breakfast. I did that in Hawaii, and I could definitely feel a difference in terms of the travel inflammation. Now, while we're on the topic of gut health, if I could only choose to take one supplement for the rest of my life, it would be the Just Thrive probiotic. It is hands down the best probiotic I've ever taken in terms of effectiveness, and it helps keep everything flowing regularly, if you know what I mean. Now, since I've started training with Ashton at Inertia, I've also drastically increased my carb intake. I've always followed a low carb diet or carb cycling on heavy leg days, but with the increase in weight, he suggested increasing my carb intake overall to support that muscle growth. Now, that said, I have definitely gained a ton of muscle. Like I said, I'm up like 5 or 6 pounds of just pure muscle since February. But my body fat percentage has also gone up with that. So now that the muscle is on, I'm going to go back to carb cycling on leg days and eating lower carb on non-leg days to see if I can trim down my body fat percentage again without losing the muscle that I gained. So we'll see how that goes. I'm interested to see the results. And if you're a WKS, a West Kept Secret times the Cheeky Bean program taker, you actually have my meal plan, which emulates what a typical day of eating looks like for me. It's lots of high protein meals, a lot of eggs, a lot of chicken, turkey, and lean meats. I love to do smoked salmon for breakfast. You'll see that on my meal plan. But you can also buy just the meal plan if you're interested in what that looks like. So I will leave the link to that in the show notes. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about that can really help you optimize your health and wellness journey is to actually test everything. So that's a tool that is obviously a little bit harder to come by, but if you can find a practitioner or if your general practitioner is willing to work with you to test your hormones, test your vitamin levels, look at your cell counts, etc., it is actually shocking at what some of the lab results are, but it gives you an accurate picture to lay the groundwork for optimizing what needs supplementation. So surprisingly, when I went through this process, my vitamin D was really low, and I was shocked by this because I spend so much time outdoors. So I actually said that to my general practitioner. I was like, how is that possible? I love to be outdoors. We've been nothing but outside since March, and I actually learned that if you have sunscreen on, your skin can't absorb the right amount of vitamin D that it needs on a daily basis. So even though I'm spending all this time outside, I'm a big proponent of sunscreen and protecting your skin. And that is basically blocking my skin from absorbing that vitamin D in the levels that you need to function optimally. So by testing that, it allowed me to know how much to supplement with. My magnesium looked great. No surprise there because I take a magnesium supplement daily. But my iron was low, which I was also surprised by. But I think because I eat a leaner diet, red meat isn't a big part of my intake. So learning that allowed me to add in an iron supplement. And then now I also incorporate 1 to 2 meals a week with red meat, which has been kind of fun. Switch it up a little, you know? So my hormones were kind of all over the map. That's still a work in progress as they change throughout the month with your cycle. So we're continuing to test those in each phase of my cycle just to be able to get the full picture. And we'll have to do a whole episode on just hormones in the future because there's really a lot to unpack there. So anyway, if you can find somebody who will test these things for you, it's been really interesting seeing where I'm at with everything, but also has just given me an accurate picture of what to supplement with, how much to supplement with, and then we'll continue to test over the next 3 months just to make sure that it's obviously working. It is a little bit pricier to do that, but I think if you are struggling with a certain symptom, whether it's fatigue or headaches, like headaches a lot of times are associated with not enough magnesium intake, it can really give you an accurate depiction of what's going on inside your body. So like I said, those are, in my opinion, the main pillars of a health and wellness routine. So if you're somebody who is looking for somewhere to start or not sure where to start, I would start with one of those pillars. There are other things that I've kind of been experimenting with, but don't have enough time under my belt to really report back on. Things like, I know cold plunging right now is all the rage. I don't have a cold plunge at my house, but I have been experimenting with doing an ice cold temperature in the shower for the last 10 seconds of every shower. So far, the only thing that I've noticed the biggest difference with is my energy. You're obviously very alert and wide awake after you have just doused yourself in freezing cold water. I don't know if I'm really a fan, to be honest, but like I said, haven't really given it a long enough time frame to notice any long-term benefits yet. So I'm going to stick with it for a little while and we can reassess later on that front. The other thing that I'm really interested in that I've done a ton of reading about is sauna usage, but obviously that's pretty time consuming. I don't have a sauna at my house and a little less realistic to kind of build into a daily routine. So I think a goal for myself would be to try to use a sauna at least once a week, just for the healthy benefits. I know that when I use that after like a massage, I always feel so much better. And oh my gosh, the glow you get from your skin after being in the sauna is incredible. That's worth it alone. So obviously I think once a week for me is tangible, but we'll see. I'll report back on that after I have a little bit more time and experience with those two things. So anyway, as I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to do an episode on this because it was my most listened to episode in season 1, and I continue to get questions regularly on social media about my current routines. My wellness journey is always changing and it's always evolving, and I'm always trying to be better by making these small little changes here and there that I know are easy for me to implement. So I have most of those big pillars kind of down pat. I've refined those processes. I've made the tangible changes that I can. And then, like I mentioned at the end of this episode, there are a couple things here or there that I think I can add into my routine that are realistic goals for me. Obviously, I'm not perfect, and some days are a complete shit show, while others are great. But I think the key to being successful with this is just staying as consistent as possible. Start with one thing that you know you can do. Like maybe that's the lemon hydration elixir that I was talking about with a little bit of Himalayan sea salt in it. You master that, and then you begin to stack on top of that, so it just becomes second nature. And again, I mentioned this earlier, but I'm not a doctor, not here to give you medical advice. This is just me being transparent about my journey and what's worked for me. And everybody's journey is unique and different, and what works for one person may not work for another. But hopefully there's a tip or two in this episode that you can take and try. And if you liked this episode, you already know what I'm going to say. Feel free to rate and review. Let me know what you want to hear about next. Thank you guys so much for listening. This was so much fun. Like I said, I am so pumped to be back. And with that, I will see you guys next time.